Hi, welcome to my channel, Organize with Joy. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different than what I have done with my videos. Today is a little story time for you. I was just thinking about how not only have we entered a new year here in January 2020, but we've actually entered a new decade. And so when we rang in the new year, it just got me to thinking about the last decade of my life. And of course, with anyone's life in a decade, lots can happen and lots of changes happen. But I thought it would be fun to share with you what happened in my life and what I did before I was a professional organizer. I am actually gonna start back in July of 2009 only because we moved from the northeast side of Austin to the northwest side of Austin that summer. We moved primarily just to get our kids in a better school district. At the time, our oldest, our daughter, was going into 7th grade, and then our two boys were entering 3rd grade and kindergarten. As you can imagine, that time in life was really busy, just filled with soccer and basketball and band and piano lessons. And in addition to that, my daughter joined a club at her school. It was called Wildlife Club, and it is a non-for-profit Christian club that is basically the middle school version of Young Life, if anyone is familiar with that organization. I became involved as a parent helper for Wildlife. In addition to that, I was volunteering in both of my boys' classrooms, and I also brought both of them lunch once a week. In addition to that, the home that we had just purchased was a little bit of a fixer-upper, so I began the process of remodeling our home and making it our own. And when we first moved into this neighborhood, I looked into joining a Moms in Prayer group. It is an international organization where women come together to pray for their children and schools and teachers and administrators. I participated in that group for the last 10 years, and the last 2 years I was actually the leader for the high school group of moms. In 8th grade, my daughter continued to participate in Wildlife Club, and I continued to help as a parent helper in that organization. And at the end of that school year, the parent who was the parent leader was moving out of the community and looking for someone to take over her role. So at that point, I took over as lead parent for Wildlife, and I actually was the lead parent for that organization up until just last spring of 2019 is when I stepped down from that role. And so it was a little bit like a part-time job. I was the communicator between the parents and the leaders. I kept the parents informed about club or about special events. I also coordinated to make sure the leaders had a dinner on club night, and that the kids had snacks for club night, which met once a week. Our parent team also planned and coordinated our annual fall fundraiser, so I always played a big role in that. In addition to that, the leaders, if you're not familiar with Wildlife or Young Life, it's kind of similar to youth group, and they have leaders that mentor these middle school children, and the leaders were from the University of Texas. So they were just college age girls that were mentoring these middle school kids, and I in turn mentored some of these college age girls. So each semester I would have a couple of girls that I was mentoring that I would spend time with, have lunch with or coffee, just pray for them or make them care packages or whatever I could do to help them feel loved and cared for. You can imagine after being in that role for 10 years, it was very bittersweet to leave that role. I knew it was time to step down. I didn't have children in the program anymore, and I thought it would be better for someone to be in that lead parent role who had children in this program and who, you know, knew parents and people in the community that were participating in it. And so I did step down in the spring of 2019, but I have so many wonderful memories from being a part of that organization over the last 10 years. In 2010, I trained for a half marathon, and this was the third half marathon that I would be running. So that obviously took up a lot of time. We had our first family ski vacation, which we have enjoyed many winters over the last 10 years, skiing together as a family. And of course, I continue to be a chauffeur for my boys for their after-school sporting activities. Unfortunately, that fall, I began a journey of dealing with some GI issues and anxiety issues, and I spent probably a year and a half trying to figure out what was going on and seeing different specialists, being on different medications, until finally I landed in a holistic doctor's office, and she was the one that taught me about how changing our diets could help us to heal and to be healthy again. And so I became gluten-free, dairy-free, changed my diet, and started taking different supplements, which helped tremendously. I was actually able to go off of my acid reflux medication within just a couple of months after starting that diet. So I was glad to finally have answers and finally be feeling better. In 2011, I also started the undertaking of painting all of our kitchen cabinets. It did take quite a while as I did it very slowly. I wanted to make sure I was doing a good job, and I also would put all of the paint supplies away once my children were home from school in the afternoon so I could focus on them, on their homework and their after-school activities. So it did take me a few months to get all of our kitchen cabinets painted, but I was so thrilled with the outcome that I decided to paint the cabinets that were in our game room and also in our 2 upstairs bathrooms. Although it was a really big undertaking, in hindsight, it was definitely well worth all the effort that I put in. In 2012, I was still running boys to sporting practices and watching games. In the spring of 2012, my older son played flag football, my younger son played soccer, and then the following fall, my older son decided to join the middle school cross country team, and that winter my younger son played basketball. So it was definitely a lot of carpools and running kids to different sporting activities and watching games. During that year, we also looked for a smaller church to join. We had been going to a really big church and we weren't really making those intimate connections that we wanted to, and so the church where we landed, we really loved it and made lifelong friendships through that church. And actually, when we first started going, the pastor was looking for someone who could take over some administrative roles that he was doing on his own, and he ended up hiring me to take over some of those administrative roles. So I did that for him for a year and a half, and as I mentioned before, I was also still the wildlife parent lead. So I was doing a lot of administrative work for a couple of different non-for-profit organizations. In 2013 and 2014 was just more of sports, homework. Our house became a revolving door of friends coming in and out. It was just that age where my children were in elementary school, middle school, and high school, so there was always friends coming and going and activities happening. My daughter's junior year in 2014, she decided she wanted to take ballet classes, and her and I talked about it and thought it would be fun to do together. So as a 40-year-old, I took up ballet. I had never done ballet in my life, but it was really fun. We did it for probably about a year and a half. It was a lot of fun to do together, and it was fun to do something outside of my comfort zone to learn a new skill. 2015 was a really monumental year for us. Our daughter graduated from high school. Our middle child, our son, was graduating from middle school, and our youngest was graduating from elementary school. So it was a really big year for us. They were all three moving on to the next school. And with my daughter entering college and my two boys becoming more independent as they entered middle school and high school, I was looking for something to do with my time other than just the wildlife role that I continued to do. So for a very short time, I signed on as a Beachbody Coach. And if you're not familiar with that organization, basically they sell products like shakes and health food products. They also sell fitness videos. And what I did as a Beachbody Coach was I recruited people, encouraged people to purchase these videos so that we could do these workouts together. And I had online groups that I managed where I just encouraged people virtually to stick to their goals in these different fitness groups. It was kind of a short-lived thing. I quickly realized that it just wasn't something that I was flourishing at, and decided to step away from that. And around that time, there was a home decor and furniture boutique in our local area that I loved to frequent. I loved the furniture. I loved her style of what she had available to purchase in her boutique. And I became friends with the owner, I guess because I shopped there so often. And I said to her in passing, hey, if you ever need help with the store, let me know. The fall of 2016, she took me up on that offer, contacted me to see if I would want to work in her store while she was not in the store. So I basically managed the boutique on my own while she was not there. And it was while working at that boutique that I really discovered my love for organization. I was frequently organizing her stockroom, and whenever we had shipments come in, I would have to sift through and organize the new items that had come in the store and then back in the stockroom. And so I just realized how much I loved organization. And I always loved organizing my own home, but once I was organizing another space other than my home, I realized my love for organization. And so it was the winter of 2018 that I decided that I wanted to start my own business. And so I left working that boutique, and I began the journey of trying to build my own business. And that spring of 2018, I pretty much was just working with friends and friends of friends. I was just helping them organize spaces in their homes, and at the same time I was building a website. At that time I used Wix, which is a very rudimentary website, but it worked well, especially for someone who had never built a website or didn't know anything about website building. So after I built the website, I was posting blog posts on it here and there, and I was also making social media posts on Instagram and Facebook for my business. I made business accounts for those social media sites. And in the fall of 2018, my youngest son got very ill. he had some GI issues that became very severe that fall. And so I kind of just had to put the whole business idea on the back burner as I cared for him, taking him to doctor's appointments and trying to figure out how to keep him caught up with schooling. Unfortunately, he missed so much school. By the time he was able to see his specialist, the pediatric GI doctor, that my husband and I, after meeting with his counselor at school, his academic counselor, and the completion specialist, we decided it was best for him to do a different schooling option. We decided to have him do online school because of his health issues. So, overnight I became kind of a homeschool mom, and I had never experienced anything like that before. All three of my kids had gone to public school up until that point. So I really just needed to focus on his health and focus on getting him adjusted to this new schooling schedule, this new way of schooling for him. I did continue to keep up with posting blog posts and social media posts, but it was nothing consistent until the summer of 2019. I started picking up and doing a little bit more, and by the fall of 2019, our middle son was leaving to go away to college, and so we had two in college, and we had our youngest at home. And I decided I needed to be better at marketing my business. And so that fall I switched my Wix website over to a WordPress website so that it looked more professional. And I started more consistently posting blog posts and social media posts as well, trying to be better at marketing my business. And then I had this idea in the back of my mind probably since February of 2019 of starting a YouTube channel in conjunction with my business, and I just kept sitting on it. There was a lot of things that was stopping me, but fast forward to November of 2019, and I started this YouTube channel in conjunction with my business. So that is where I'm at now. This last decade has definitely been a wild ride. It was definitely the decade of my children's growing up years. I feel so privileged to have had the opportunity to stay at home with them and to work for non-for-profit organizations, to volunteer my time, and to find what I was passionate about all in this last decade. I am definitely excited to see what the next 10 years holds for me and for my family. Thank you for watching my video today. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, I would love to have you subscribe. This video is a little bit different than what I ordinarily do on my channel. Most of the videos are about inspiring you to be organized. So if that's something that interests you, I would hope that you would subscribe to my channel to see future content. Have a great day. Bye.